Most people think discipline is a trait, something private, something noble, a harder mind, a stronger character. So when they keep failing in the same parts of life, they reach the obvious conclusion. Something must be wrong with me. I'm too distracted, too soft, too weak to stay with anything long enough for it to matter. But that is not always true. Sometimes the problem is not your character. It is your conditions. You are trying to grow in a climate that keeps weakening what you are trying to build. That is why discipline can feel real in the morning and dead by night. Not because your intention was fake, because your environment was stronger than your intention. This is what most people miss. They think discipline is built only by decision. But decision is only the spark. What decides whether that spark survives is the air around it. A flame needs oxygen. A seed needs soil. A body needs conditions. A mind is no different. If your day is filled with interruption, discipline weakens. If your environment rewards instant escape, discipline weakens. If your nervous system never gets silence, discipline weakens. If your life trains speed, novelty, and reaction from the moment you wake up, discipline weakens. And after enough repetition, you start blaming yourself for what your environment has been rehearsing into you. That is the trap. You do not wake up inside obvious chaos. You wake up inside convenience. Endless access, endless stimulation, endless little exits that never seem serious enough to resist. Nothing looks catastrophic. That is why it works. A climate does not have to feel violent to damage growth. Bad air can be invisible. Bad soil can look normal. A hostile environment can feel so ordinary that you mistake its effects for your personality. You say, maybe I'm just inconsistent. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. Maybe I don't have what it takes. But look more closely. Maybe your attention keeps breaking before it has time to deepen. Maybe your standards keep dissolving because the atmosphere around you keeps rewarding the easier move. Maybe your system has not become weak by accident. Maybe it has adapted. That is what human beings do. We adapt to the conditions we live in. If you live in noise, your mind becomes reactive. If you live in overstimulation, stillness starts to feel unnatural. If you live in frictionless comfort, effort begins to feel offensive. If you live around constant temptation, your attention never fully settles anywhere. Then one day, you ask yourself to act with discipline inside those same conditions, and it feels impossible. Not because you are broken, because you are asking a plant to thrive in poisoned ground. This is why guilt is often useless. Guilt makes the problem moral. But many times the problem is structural. It lets you keep saying, I need to become stronger, without asking the better question, what are my conditions training me to become? That is where real change begins. Look at your day honestly, not your ideals, not your plans, not the version of you that appears at night when everything feels possible. Look at the actual atmosphere of your life. What does it reward? Depth or scattered attention? Patience or constant reaction? Follow through or escape the moment discomfort begins? Because your environment is always teaching you something. It teaches you what deserves attention. It teaches you how fast your mind should move. It teaches your nervous system what level of discomfort is acceptable. It teaches you whether silence is survivable, whether boredom is safe, whether one task can be enough. And if you never shape those lessons consciously, you will absorb them unconsciously. That is why some people keep waiting for discipline to arrive, while their lifestyle keeps rehearsing the opposite state. They want consistency in an atmosphere of constant access. They want depth in a climate of interruption. They want calm authority in conditions designed for low-grade chaos. Then they wonder why nothing holds. Because discipline does not grow well in bad weather. You can force a lot for a day, maybe for a week. But eventually, conditions win. That is why intensity is not the answer. Intensity is loud. Environment is patient. One speech will not beat a daily atmosphere. One emotional reset will not defeat repeated exposure. One hard Monday will not fix a life that keeps training retreat the rest of the week. So stop trying to change your life only through force. Start changing conditions. That is responsibility at a higher level. Not, how do I push harder, but what in my life keeps making the right thing harder to keep alive? Because once you ask that, the work becomes clear. Reduce what keeps scattering you. Stop flooding your system from the moment the day begins. Create cleaner spaces, cleaner sequences, cleaner starts. Not because aesthetics matter, because state matters. A disciplined person is not just someone with strong thoughts. He is often someone whose conditions stop sabotaging those thoughts all day. If your mind is always open to interruption, close the gate. If your day starts in reaction, reclaim the first stretch of it. If every difficult task sits too close to every easy escape, create distance. If noise is constant, build silence on purpose. You do not need to redesign your entire life in 1 week. You need to stop being careless with the atmosphere your mind lives in. Because at first, discipline is fragile. It begins as a cleaner decision, a longer attention span, a calmer response to discomfort, a moment where you do not abandon the task the second your system asks for relief. That signal has to survive before it can grow, and survival depends on conditions. A young tree needs support. Healing tissue needs protection. A rebuilding nervous system needs less chaos, not more tests. There is no weakness in that. That is wisdom. So if your discipline has been dying, do not ask only where you are weak. Because discipline does not die only from weakness. It also dies from bad conditions repeated long enough to feel normal. So stop blaming the fire for being small when your life keeps standing in the wind. Change the conditions, and the flame will show you who you could have been all along. If this inspired you, give it a like, subscribe for weekly wisdom, and share your thoughts below to grow the Inner Strength community.